They're laughing as my skin blisters, as my 3-year-old son screams in my arms, and all I can do is shield his tiny body with mine, while the Wolfsbane burns through my flesh like liquid silver. The pain is white-hot, stealing my breath. My wolf writhes inside me, howling in agony as the poison seeps deeper, but I don't let go. I won't let go of Kieran. Oops! Delilah purrs above me, her voice dripping with false sweetness. How clumsy of me! The crystal goblet dangles from her manicured fingers, still dripping with the Wolfsbane-laced wine she'd just poured down my back. The liquid sears through my servant's dress, eating through fabric and flesh with equal hunger. Kieran sobs against my chest, his small hands clutching my uniform. "Mama! Mama! It hurts!" "I know, baby, I know." My voice comes out strangled. A few drops had splashed onto his arm, raising angry welts on his perfect skin. "Mama's got you." Around us, the pack howls with laughter. Alpha Marcus watches from his throne-like chair at the head table, a slight smile playing at his lips. He does nothing, says nothing. His future bride has provided entertainment at their mating ceremony, and that's all we are to them, entertainment. "Did you see how she twitched?" someone calls out. "Like a dying roach," another adds. More laughter, always more laughter. I try to stand, but my legs won't cooperate. The Wolfsbane has paralysed my lower body, turning my muscles to water. I can only curl tighter around Kieran, making myself into a shield even as my skin continues to burn. Poor little Omega, Delilah crouches down, her designer dress pooling around her like blood. She's beautiful in the way all high-ranking she-wolves are. Perfect skin, perfect hair, perfect everything. Her wolf is strong enough to command respect. Mine barely whispers. "Did that hurt?" I don't answer, can't answer. My jaws lock tight against the pain. "Your bastard pup is quite loud." She tilts her head, studying Kieran like he's an insect. "Who's his father again?" "Oh, that's right. You won't say. Just some rogue you spread your legs for, wasn't it?" Shame burns hotter than the Wolfsbane, but I swallow it down. Let them think what they want. Let them believe whatever story makes them feel superior. The truth would be so much worse. "Answer me when I speak to you." Delilah's voice sharpens. "Yes, Miss Delilah." The words scrape from my throat. "I apologize for ruining your celebration." She laughs again, bright and cruel. "You apologize for existing, and still here you are." My vision starts to blur at the edges. Blood pounds in my ears. Kieran is still crying, still calling for me, but his voice sounds distant now, far away. Through the haze of pain, I catch movement at the window. A raven perches on the sill, black as midnight except for its eyes. Crimson eyes that seem to glow in the candlelight. It tilts its head, studying me with an intelligence that makes my wolf stir, despite the poison flooding my system. I've seen this raven before. Once, 4 years ago, in another life, and once more, the night Kieran was born. "Get her out of here," Alpha Marcus finally speaks, waving a dismissive hand. "She's bleeding on the carpet." 2 wolves grab me under the arms and drag me from the hall. My useless legs trail behind me. I clutch Kieran tighter, feeling his tears soak into my ruined dress. The pack's laughter follows us out, echoing down the stone corridors of the pack house. They dump us in my basement room, a converted storage space with a cot, a bucket for water and nothing else. The door slams shut, no lock needed. Where would an Omega run? "Mama." Kieran's voice is small and broken. "You're bleeding." "It's okay, baby." I force the words out, even though my tongue feels thick. "Mama's okay." "I'm not okay." The Wolfsbane has spread through my entire back now, eating away at flesh and muscle. My wolf whimpers, weak and helpless. Under normal circumstances, I'd heal in hours. But Wolfsbane slows everything, turns our greatest strength into nothing. Kieran curls against my chest, careful of my burns. He's learned so young to be careful, to be quiet, to take up as little space as possible. 3 years old, and he already knows what it means to be unwanted. My fault. All my fault. Sing, Mama, he whispers. I try. I hum the lullaby my own mother sang to me before she died and left me alone in this pack, before I became property, before everything fell apart. My voice cracks and fades, but Kieran's breathing eventually evens out. Sleep takes him, merciful and quick. I'm not so lucky. The hours crawl by. The pain doesn't fade. It only changes, deepening into something that feels like it's gnawing at my bones. I drift in and out of consciousness, my wolf too weak to help heal. At some point, I hear footsteps outside my door. Hope flares. Maybe someone's brought medicine, bandages, something. But the steps pass by without stopping. The pack doctor won't waste supplies on an Omega. I already know this. I've known it since the first time I was beaten, since the first time I begged for help that never came. Omegas heal on their own, or they don't heal at all. That's the way it's always been. So I lie there in the dark with my son's small body pressed against mine, and I wait for dawn. Fever comes in waves, hot, then cold, then hot again. Sweat soaks through my dress, mingles with blood and wine. I lose track of time. Minutes might be hours, hours might be days. In the delirium, I see things. My mother's face, kind and worried. The raven with crimson eyes perched on my chest. And him, always him. The one I ran from, the one I've hidden from for 3 years. No, I whisper to the fever dreams. Not him. Anyone but him. But my wolf stirs deeper in my consciousness, past the pain, past the poison. She's weak. Barely there, but her voice carries through the haze with perfect clarity. He's coming. Ice floods my veins despite the fever. No, I say again, he finally knows where we are. I want to argue, want to deny it. But some part of me, the part that still remembers what it felt like to be whole, to be wanted, recognizes the truth. The raven wasn't a coincidence. It never is. He's found us. After 3 years of running, of hiding, of pretending to be someone I'm not, he's finally found us. And I don't know if that terrifies me or fills me with something that feels dangerously close to hope. Kieran shifts in his sleep, his small hand curling into my dress. His burns have already healed. They were minor, thank the goddess, but mine will take weeks, maybe longer. My body is a map of scars already. What's a few more? I close my eyes and let the fever drag me under again. Somewhere in the darkness, I hear wings. Chapter 2. The photograph landed on Theron Nightshade's desk at precisely 3 a.m. He'd been awake naturally. Sleep was a luxury he'd abandoned 3 years ago, along with mercy, patience, and anything resembling peace. The Alpha King didn't sleep, he hunted. And for 3 years, he'd been hunting a ghost. My lord. His head of intelligence, a wiry wolf named Garrett, kept his eyes down as he placed the manila envelope on the mahogany surface. Smart man. Eye contact with Theron these days was an invitation to violence. The spy network finally got something. Theron's hand stilled on the whiskey glass he'd been holding. From? Crescent Moon Pact territory. There was a mating ceremony last night. Our operative managed to get inside as catering staff. Garrett backed toward the door. The woman you've been looking for, she's there. The glass shattered in Theron's grip. He didn't feel the crystal shards bite into his palm. Didn't feel the blood drip onto the report scattered across his desk. His entire focus narrowed to that envelope with an intensity that made his wolf surge forward, demanding, desperate. Garrett was already gone, the door clicking shut with a finality that said he knew what was coming. Theron's hands shook as he reached for the envelope. When had his hands last shaken? He was the Alpha King, the Reaper of Rogues. His name made grown wolves whimper and children hide. He'd personally executed over 300 rogues in the past 3 years alone, each death more brutal than the last. He was control and cold fury wrapped in expensive suits and dark promises, but his hands shook now. The photograph slid free, and Theron's world ended for the second time in 3 years. Isla, his Isla, though she'd never truly been his, had she? Not in the way he'd wanted, not in the way his wolf had howled for since the moment their eyes met across that blood-soaked battlefield. She looked different in the photo. Thinner, her dark hair was pulled back severely, and she wore some kind of servant's uniform. But it was her face, those delicate features, those storm-grey eyes that had haunted every waking moment and fever dream for 3 years. She was crouched on the floor, her body curved protectively around. Theron's vision went red. A child. She was holding a child. His wolf exploded forward with a roar that shook the windows of his office. The desk flipped, sending papers and electronics flying. The leather chair crashed through the bookshelf behind him. He couldn't breathe, couldn't think past the rage and betrayal and something else. Something that felt like grief mixed with savage joy. The photograph fluttered to the floor, and Theron snatched it up with bloodied hands, bringing it close enough that he could see every detail. The child was small, young, maybe 3 years old, dark hair like Isla's, but those eyes, no. The word ripped from Theron's throat. Golden eyes, his eyes. The same unusual amber gold that marked every Nightshade Alpha for generations. The same eyes that stared back at him from the mirror every morning, cold and dead and searching. His son. Theron had a son. And Isla had hidden him, had run while carrying his heir, had vanished into the night like smoke, and had spent 3 years keeping his child from him. Another roar tore through him. The windows exploded outward, glass raining down onto the courtyard 4 stories below. Wolves throughout the castle howled in response to their king's rage, the sound echoing through the territory like a death knell. Theron's office looked like a war zone by the time his beta, Marcus, burst through the door. "My king. Theron, what happened?" Marcus took in the destruction with wide eyes, the overturned furniture, the shattered windows, the blood on Theron's hands. "Are we under attack?" "Get out! Theron, get out!" Power rolled off Theron in waves, the kind of alpha command that brought wolves to their knees. Marcus stumbled backward but held his ground. Stubborn bastard. That's why Theron had chosen him. "I can't help if you don't tell me what's wrong." Marcus's voice was steady despite the fear Theron could scent on him. Good. Fear was smart. Fear kept people alive around him these days. Theron thrust the photograph at him. Marcus studied it, his expression shifting from confusion to shock to something that looked like dread. "Is that my mate?" The words tasted like acid. "The one I've torn apart 3 territories looking for, the one who vanished like a ghost. She's been in Crescent Moon this whole time. And the child? Mine." Theron's voice dropped to something deadly. "That's my son, Marcus. Look at his eyes. Look at them and tell me that's not my bloodline." Marcus was silent for a long moment. Then carefully, "How old would you say the boy is?" 3, maybe a little younger. The timeline clicked into place with brutal clarity. She was pregnant when she left. She knew, she must have known, and she ran anyway. Maybe she didn't know. Don't. Theron's hand shot out, gripping Marcus's collar. "Don't make excuses for her. She marked me that night. Let me claim her. Let me think." His voice cracked, and he hated himself for it. "She let me believe we had forever." The memory crashed over him like it did every night. That border skirmish 3 years ago, when his patrol encountered a group of rogues attacking a lone she-wolf. They dispatched the rogues easily. Theron's reputation as the Reaper wasn't unearned, but it was the woman they'd been hunting that stopped his heart. Isla, bloodied and terrified. Her wolf barely conscious from silver poisoning. She'd looked up at him with those storm grey eyes, and the bond had snapped into place with enough force to drive him to his knees. Mate, his wolf had known instantly. The bond sang between them, golden and perfect, and right in a way nothing else had ever been. "Please," she'd whispered, "please don't send me back." Back where, he'd asked, but she wouldn't say, wouldn't tell him which pack she'd fled from or why, would only shake her head and tremble and beg him not to send her back to the darkness. So he hadn't. He'd taken her to his private cabin instead, the one hidden deep in nightshade territory where no one would find them. He'd treated her wounds himself, careful and gentle in a way he'd forgotten he could be. And when she'd healed enough to stand, when the silver had worked its way from her system and her wolf had returned, she'd looked at him with something in her eyes that made him hope. "Stay," he'd said, not an order, a plea, and she had. For one perfect night, she'd stayed. They'd talked until dawn. She'd told him about her mother's death, about life as an omega, about abuse and hunger and years of being treated like nothing. She hadn't told him her pack's name. "I don't want to bring that darkness to you," she'd said. But he hadn't pushed. There would be time, he'd thought. They had forever. When talking turned to touching, when touching turned to more, Theron had been careful, gentle, worshipful. She was his mate, his queen, the other half of his soul. And when he'd marked her, his canines sinking into the curve of her neck, claiming her for all the world to see, he'd felt complete for the first time in his life. He'd waited for her mark in return. Waited for her teeth to break his skin, to complete the bond. But she'd only kissed the spot above his heart and whispered, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." He'd thought she meant sorry for not being ready, sorry for needing time. He'd fallen asleep with her in his arms, breathing in her scent of rain and wild roses, planning their future. When he woke, she was gone. No note, no trace, just the fading scent of her fear and the mark on his neck that pulsed with emptiness. He'd torn apart 3 territories looking for her, had questioned every pack, every rogue, every lone wolf he encountered, had grown more ruthless with each dead end, each false lead. Each night he woke reaching for someone who wasn't there. The reaper of rogues, they called him now, the Alpha King who showed no mercy, who killed first and asked questions later, who'd abandoned peace treaties and diplomatic solutions in favor of blood and domination, all because he couldn't find her. And now he knew why. She'd been hiding his child from him. Theron. Marcus's voice cut through the memories. "What are you going to do? What do you think?" Theron released his beta and turned to stare out the broken window. In the distance, the sun was starting to rise, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. "I'm going to Crescent Moonpack. You can't just..." "Can't I?" Theron's laugh was sharp enough to cut. "I'm the Alpha King, Marcus. I can do whatever I damn well please. Crescent Moon is influential. Alpha Marcus has connections to 3 other major packs. If you attack them directly, you'll start a war." "Let them prepare for war, then." Theron's voice went cold, flat. The voice he used right before someone died. "No one touches what's mine and lives." "What's yours? Theron, look at that photo again. Really look at it." Theron didn't want to. Looking at it hurt worse than silver in his veins. But he forced himself to study the image again. Isla was on her knees. Her dress was wet. No, not just wet. Stained. And her face was twisted in pain, her body curved around their son like she was trying to shield him from something. "What happened to her?" The words came out strangled. "I had Garrett send more details." Marcus pulled out his phone, scrolling quickly. The spy said the Alpha's new mate spilled Wolfsbane-laced wine on her during the ceremony. For entertainment. The pack doctor refused to treat her. Apparently they don't waste medicine on omegas. The phone shattered in Marcus's hand. Theron didn't remember moving, didn't remember crossing the room, But suddenly he was gripping the window frame hard enough that the wood splintered under his fingers. Wolfsbane. They'd poisoned his mate with wolfsbane, while she held their son, and the pack had laughed. How long? His voice didn't sound like his own. How long ago? Last night, maybe 12 hours. 12 hours. 12 hours she'd been suffering while he'd been here, drinking whiskey and brooding over reports. 12 hours their son had been scared and hurt, and... A tap at the broken window made them both spin. A raven perched on the jagged glass, black as midnight except for its eyes. Crimson eyes that gleamed with intelligence and something that might have been smugness. "You're familiar," Marcus exhaled slowly. "When did you send him?" 3 days ago." Theron held out his arm, and the raven hopped onto it, talons gentle despite their sharpness. "When Garrett's spy first reported seeing a woman matching Isla's description in Crescent Moon territory, I needed to be sure. And you didn't tell me. I didn't want to hope." The admission cost him. 3 years, Marcus. 3 years of false leads and dead ends. I couldn't... He stopped, jaw tight. I had to see for myself. The raven cawed softly, and images flooded Theron's mind through their bond. His familiar's memories, sharp and clear. Isla, in a basement room, serving food to wolves who didn't acknowledge her existence. Isla carrying their son through corridors, always keeping him close, always watchful. Isla being shoved against a wall by a male twice her size, taking the abuse without fighting back because fighting back would mean leaving their son unprotected. And last night? The ceremony. The she-wolf's cruelty. The wolfsbane burning through Isla's flesh while she held Kieran tight. The pack's laughter. The way she'd looked up, delirious with pain, and seen his raven watching. The way she'd closed her eyes and turned away. She'd known. Somewhere in her delirium, she'd recognized his familiar. And she hadn't called for him. 3 days. His raven had been watching for 3 days, waiting to see if Isla would reach out, would ask for help, would show any sign that she wanted him to find her. She hadn't. Not once. Even when she was dying from wolfsbane poisoning. Even when their son was terrified and hurt. She'd stayed silent. She doesn't want to be found, Marcus said quietly. Reading his expression, I don't care. Theron's hand curled into a fist and the raven took flight, circling the room before settling on the overturned desk. She's my mate. That's my son. And someone hurt them both. So you'll start a war, if that's what it takes. Theron turned to face his beta fully. Call in the Nightshade Guard, all of them. I want them ready to move within the hour. Theron. She's been living as an Omega, the lowest rank. Do you understand what that means? The words came out harsh. She's the Alpha King's mate, the mother of my heir, and she's been serving wolves who aren't fit to breathe the same air as her, who hurt her for fun. Marcus was silent. I should have protected her. Theron's voice dropped. 3 years ago, I should have made her tell me which pack she ran from. Should have hunted them down and torn out the throat of every wolf who'd ever made her afraid. But I was trying to be gentle, trying to give her time, and she used that gentleness to disappear. Maybe she was protecting you. The suggestion made Theron's wolf snarl. From what? I don't know. But look at the evidence, Theron. She ran while pregnant with your child. She's been living under a false identity in a pack that treats her like dirt. She saw your familiar and didn't call for help. Marcus spread his hands. That's not the behaviour of someone who stopped caring. That's someone who thinks she's protecting you from something. Then she's an idiot. But the words lacked heat. Because Marcus was right, wasn't he? Isla had never been cruel. Never been selfish. The woman he'd spent that perfect night with had been scared and scarred and desperately trying to be brave. What could make her think running was the right choice? What could be worse than raising their son alone in hell? I'm still going, Theron said finally, but I'll try diplomacy first. Marcus looked sceptical. Your version of diplomacy usually involves someone losing a limb. Then they should choose their words carefully. Theron pulled his phone from his pocket, one of the few things that had survived his rage, and pulled up Alpha Marcus's contact information. Yes, the Crescent Moon Alpha had the same name as his beta, confusing and irritating in equal measure. The call connected after 3 rings. Alpha King. Alpha Marcus's voice was smooth, political. What an unexpected honor. I'm coming to your territory. Theron didn't bother with pleasantries. Today, there's something of mine that's ended up in your pack, and I'm collecting it. A pause. I'm not sure what you mean. You have an Omega, dark hair, grey eyes, about 25. She has a son. Theron's grip tightened on the phone. They belong to me. Another pause, longer this time. I'm afraid we have several Omegas matching that description. Don't. The word cracked like a whip. Don't insult my intelligence. You know exactly who I'm talking about. She was poisoned with Wolfsbane at your mating ceremony last night. Ah. Was that amusement in the other Alpha's voice? You mean Isla. I wasn't aware she belonged to anyone, Alpha King. She came to us as a rogue 3 years ago. No pack, no family. We offered her sanctuary. Sanctuary. The word was ash in Theron's mouth. That's an interesting definition of sanctuary. I'm not sure what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm telling you that I'll be there before sunset. Have Isla and my son ready. If they've been harmed further. He let the threat hang. Your son? Alpha Marcus's surprise sounded genuine. I had no idea. She claimed the father was a dead rogue. She lied. Well, a rustling sound, like papers being shuffled. This does complicate things. I'll need time to verify your claim, of course. Perhaps we should arrange a formal meeting, discuss terms. There are no terms. She's mine. The boy is mine. I'm not negotiating. Everything is negotiable, Alpha King. Surely you've learned that in your years of rule. Theron's wolf pushed forward, and he knew his eyes had gone gold, could feel the shift trying to overtake him. I am trying, he said carefully, to handle this peacefully. For Isla's sake, for our son's sake. But if you push me, Alpha Marcus, you'll discover exactly why they call me the Reaper. Is that a threat? It's a promise. He ended the call before he said something that would definitely start a war. Marcus was watching him with concern. That could have gone better. Could have gone worse. I didn't threaten to rip his spine out through his throat. Theron rolled his shoulders, trying to ease the tension coiled there. Get the guard ready. We leave in an hour. And if Isla doesn't want to come with you? The question hit like silver. Then I'll ask her why, and I won't accept any answer that involves protecting me from myself. Theron. 3 years. Marcus. He turned back to the broken window, watching the sun climb higher. Somewhere out there, Isla was in pain. Their son was scared. And Theron was done waiting, done being patient, done pretending he could survive without her. 3 years I've been half alive, searching for someone who didn't want to be found. No more. His raven cawed from its perch, and more images flickered through their bond. Isla's scars, visible when her dress shifted. Too many scars for 3 years. These were old. Years old. She's been running longer than 3 years, Theron realized. Whatever she fled from, whoever hurt her before, it wasn't recent. All the more reason to tread carefully. No? Theron's jaw set. All the more reason to end this. Today. He strode from the destroyed office, his beta following. Wolves scattered from his path as he moved through the castle, their fear thick in the air. Good. Let them fear him. Let the whole world fear him. Everyone except Isla. She'd never feared him. Not really. Even that first night, bloodied and broken, she'd looked at him with caution, but not terror. She'd touched his face with gentle fingers and called him kind. No one had called him kind in years. I'm coming, he thought, sending the words through the mark he'd left on her neck. Could she feel it? Did the bond still pulse between them, incomplete but present? I'm coming, Isla, and this time you don't get to run. The Nightshade Guard assembled in the courtyard with military precision, 200 of his best wolves, all armed, all deadly. Overkill for a retrieval mission, but Theron wasn't taking chances. Not with her, not with their son. "Mount up," he ordered, and they moved as one. The raven landed on his shoulder as he climbed into his SUV, its crimson eyes fixed on the horizon. Crescent Moonpack was 6 hours away. Theron planned to make it in 4. Chapter 3. The Crescent Moon pack house came into view just as the sun began its descent, painting the stone structure in shades of amber and blood. Theron's hands tightened on the steering wheel, his wolf pacing restlessly beneath his skin. "Easy," he told it. "We're here. We're finally here." But his wolf didn't want easy. It wanted their mate, wanted their son, wanted to tear apart every wolf who'd ever made them suffer. "Remember," Marcus said from the passenger seat, "diplomacy first." "Of course." Theron's smile was all teeth. "I'm always diplomatic." Marcus muttered something that sounded like, "Goddess help us all." The convoy of black SUVs rolled through the pack's main gates like a funeral procession. Theron had brought 40 of his elite guard, fewer than he'd wanted, more than he needed, a show of force without declaring outright war. Yet. Alpha Marcus waited on the front steps, flanked by his beta and several ranked wolves. He was older than Theron expected, maybe 50, with silver threading through his dark hair. He wore a politician's smile, but Theron could scent the nervousness underneath. Good. He should be nervous. Alpha King Nightshade. Marcus descended the steps with arms spread in welcome. "What an honor, though I must admit your arrival is somewhat earlier than expected. I don't like to waste time." Theron emerged from the SUV, and the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. His elite guard fanned out behind him, silent and deadly. "I believe we have business to discuss." Of course, but surely such discussions can wait until after dinner. We've prepared a feast in your honor." Alpha Marcus's gesture was expansive, but his eyes kept flicking to the guards, counting them, calculating. "It would be our pleasure to show you Crescent Moon hospitality." Theron's wolf snarled at the word hospitality. This pack's version of hospitality involved poisoning defenseless women and children. A feast would be acceptable. The words tasted like ash, but Marcus was right, diplomacy first. At least until he had Isla and Kieran somewhere safe. Then he could unleash hell. "Though I hope we can conclude our business quickly. I have little patience for delays." "Understood, Alpha King, understood." Marcus was sweating now, despite the cool evening air. "Please come inside. Your guards are welcome as well, naturally." They entered the pack house, and Theron's first thought was that it was too opulent. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that probably cost more than most packs spent on food in a year. The Crescent Moon pack liked to display their wealth, their status. Meanwhile, Isla lived in a basement, his hands curled into fists, claws threatening to emerge. Control. He needed control. The dining hall was massive, easily able to accommodate 200 wolves. Long tables were laden with enough food to feed twice that number. Roasted meats, fresh bread, fruits and cheeses, and delicacies from across the territories. Another display of wealth. Another reminder of power. Theron was seated at the head table, Alpha Marcus on his right and a beautiful blonde woman on his left. Delilah, he presumed. The new mate. The one who'd hurt Isla. His wolf wanted to rip her throat out on sight. "Alpha King, may I present my mate, Delilah?" Marcus's voice held pride. "We were just officially mated yesterday." "Congratulations." Theron didn't look at her. Couldn't. Not yet. Not when every instinct screamed to make her bleed for what she'd done. "Oh, Alpha King, the honor is ours." Delilah's voice was high and sweet, dripping with false modesty. "Your reputation precedes you. They say you're the most powerful alpha in generations. They say a lot of things, and all of them true, I'm sure. She leaned closer, and Theron caught the scent of expensive perfume, trying to mask something sour underneath. Fear, maybe, or malice. I do hope you'll enjoy our hospitality. We've prepared only the best for you. There was that word again. Hospitality. Theron's response was cut off by the arrival of servers. Omega wolves, he realized, by their lowered eyes and submissive postures. They moved through the room like ghosts, filling glasses and setting out plates with practiced efficiency. His wolf stirred, suddenly alert, searching. She's here. Our mate is here. And then he saw her. Isla emerged from a side door carrying a heavy tray laden with wine bottles. She moved carefully, each step measured. And Theron could see why. Her movements were stiff, pained. The Wolfsbane burns hadn't fully healed. Of course they hadn't. It had only been a day. She was thinner than he remembered. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and the servant's uniform hung loosely on her frame. But it was her, his Isla, his mate, 3 years. 3 years he'd searched, and here she was, serving wine to wolves who didn't deserve to breathe the same air. Theron's wolf surged forward with a howl that only he could hear. Mine. Isla moved along the far side of the room, refilling glasses for the lower-ranked wolves. She kept her eyes down, her posture submissive. Everything about her screamed, "Don't notice me." But Theron noticed. He couldn't stop noticing. She was making her way closer to the head table, closer to him. His heart, which he'd thought had turned to stone 3 years ago, suddenly hammered against his ribs. What would she do when she saw him? Would she recognize him? He'd changed. He knew. The man she'd spent that night with had been softer, gentler. That man had died the morning he woke up alone. Isla reached the head table, moving to Marcus's side to refill his glass. She was maybe 10 feet away now. Close enough that Theron could catch her scent. Rain and wild roses still, even under the soap and exhaustion. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair hard enough that wood cracked. Delilah was talking about something, her voice a meaningless buzz in his ears. Marcus was responding. Political pleasantries that Theron didn't hear because Isla was moving again, coming around the table toward him. She still hadn't looked up, hadn't seen him. 8 feet. 6 feet. 4. Isla stopped beside his chair, reaching for his empty glass. Her hands were scarred, he noticed. New scars layered over old ones. Burns and cuts and marks that spoke of years of abuse. Something in his chest cracked. She lifted the wine bottle, tipping it toward his glass. And finally, looked up. Their eyes met. Storm grey crashed into amber gold, and the mate bond, dormant for 3 years, incomplete but present, exploded between them like lightning. Theron couldn't breathe, couldn't move. The bond screamed, thrashing inside him with 3 years of longing and rage and desperate need. His mark on her neck pulsed visibly, and he knew she could feel it, could feel him through the connection they'd never severed. Isla's eyes went wide. The wine bottle slipped from her nerveless fingers. The crash of glass on marble was deafening in the suddenly silent hall. Red wine spread across the white stone like blood, like prophecy. Isla's voice cracked. Her face had gone pale, making the dark circles under her eyes more pronounced. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." She stumbled backward, and Theron was on his feet before conscious thought. His chair clattered to the floor behind him. Isla. Just her name. Just that one word, rough with 3 years of searching and grief and furious love. She made a small, broken sound, and ran. Fled through the side door she'd entered from, moving faster than her injuries should have allowed. Theron's wolf howled. "Excuse me." He didn't wait for permission, didn't care about protocol or diplomacy or anything except getting to his mate. His feet carried him after her, ignoring Alpha Marcus's startled protests and Delilah's confused questions. The side door led to a service corridor, narrow and dim, designed for Omegas to move unseen. His wolf's enhanced senses tracked Isla easily despite the darkness. Her fear scent was sharp in the air, and it made something inside him howl with rage and anguish. She was afraid. Of him. His mate was running from him in terror. "Isla, wait," he called after her, trying to gentle his voice, trying to sound like the man he'd been 3 years ago, not the monster he'd become. "Please, I just want to talk." She burst through another door, and he followed. Into a massive kitchen, where at least a dozen Omega servants stopped mid-task to stare. Isla didn't slow. She dodged around a prep table and headed for the far exit. "Stop." The Alpha command slipped out before he could stop it, and every Omega in the room froze, including Isla. She stood with her back to him, shoulders heaving, her whole body trembling. The command held her in place, but Theron could feel her fighting it, could feel her wolf struggling against his dominance. Goddess, he hated himself. "Everyone else can," he said, forcing calm into his voice. "Out." The other Omegas scattered like leaves in a storm, fleeing through every available exit. In seconds, the kitchen was empty, except for him and Isla. Theron released the command. Isla collapsed against the counter, gasping. "Please," she whispered. "Please just go." "Go?" The word came out strangled. "Isla, I've been searching for 3 years. I'm not leaving without answers." "There's nothing to answer. I made a mistake. That night it was a mistake." Each word was a knife between his ribs. "Look at me." "No." "Isla, I can't." She spun to face him, and the anguish in her eyes stole his breath. "I can't look at you. Don't you understand?" "I can't." Her voice broke. "You're the Alpha King, and I'm nothing, nobody. Just a broken Omega who's my mate?" Theron took a step closer, hands raised like he was approaching a wounded animal. Which he was, wasn't he? "Who I've been looking for every single day, His voice caught. "Isla, when you left, you took everything with you." Tears streamed down her face. "You don't understand." "Then help me understand. Tell me why. Tell me why you ran while carrying my—" The door burst open. Delilah swept in with 3 ranked she-wolves behind her, her expression twisted with malicious glee. "There you are, Omega. Causing trouble for our honoured guest? How typical." Theron's attention snapped to her, and his wolf surged forward with a snarl. "Get out." "I don't think so." Delilah's smile was sharp. "This is my territory, and this Omega needs to be punished for her disrespect. Running away when the Alpha King was clearly speaking to her? That requires correction. Touch her and die." The words were flat, simple, true. Delilah laughed, actually laughed. "Oh, Alpha King, you're so gallant. But surely you understand pack hierarchy? Omegas must be kept in their place, or they become unruly." One of the she-wolves behind Delilah disappeared back through the door. Theron's instincts screamed warning. "What are you doing?" "Me? Nothing." Delilah examined her manicured nails. "But I think a reminder is needed about who serves whom in this pack. Bring the brat." "No." Isla lunged forward, but Delilah's wolves caught her, holding her back. "Please, please don't." The she-wolf returned, dragging a small, struggling boy by the arm. Kieran. Their son. Theron's world narrowed to a pinpoint. The boy was tiny, all dark hair and huge golden eyes. His eyes, that were wide with fear. He fought against the she-wolf's grip, trying to reach his mother. "Mama!" "Let him go." Isla's voice turned guttural, her wolf pushing forward. "Let my son go." "Your bastard, you mean." Delilah grabbed Kieran's other arm, and the boy whimpered. "I think it's time we taught you both some respect. A few hours in the silver cells should—" Theron moved. He didn't remember crossing the room. Didn't remember his hand closing around Delilah's throat. But suddenly she was dangling in his grip, her feet kicking uselessly, her eyes bulging with shock. "I warned you." His voice didn't sound human, didn't sound sane. "I said touch the child, and I'd paint these walls with your pack's blood. Alpha King." One of the she-wolves started toward him. Theron's alpha aura exploded. It rolled out from him in waves, a physical force that spoke of ancient bloodlines and absolute power. The kind of dominance that only an alpha king could wield. The kind that made grown wolves whimper and children hide and enemies flee. The she-wolves dropped to their knees with pained gasps. Throughout the packhouse, wolves began howling, in fear, in submission, in recognition of a predator far beyond their league. "Release my son!" Each word carried the weight of command. Now. The she-wolf holding Kieran let go immediately, stumbling backward. The boy ran to Isla, who'd also fallen to her knees under the weight of Theron's aura. She wrapped her arms around him, sheltering him against her chest. Theron looked down at Delilah, still struggling in his grip. "You hurt my mate. You threatened my son. Give me one reason why I shouldn't end you right now." Your mate?" she choked out. "That Omega is your—" "Mine." The word was a growl. "She's always been mine." Footsteps thundered in the corridor. Alpha Marcus burst into the kitchen with his beta and a dozen guards, all of whom immediately dropped under Theron's aura. "Alpha King." Marcus's voice was strangled. "Please, there's been a misunderstanding." "The only misunderstanding," Theron said coldly, "is your pack's belief that they could abuse what belongs to me without consequences." He released Delilah, and she collapsed to the floor, gasping. "Your mate poisoned mine with Wolfsbane. Your wolves threatened my son. And you—" He turned his gold eyes on Marcus. "You presided over a pack that treated the future queen like a slave." "Future queen?" Marcus looked between Theron and Isla, comprehension dawning. "But she told us the father was dead." "She lied." Theron's attention shifted to Isla. Even on her knees, even terrified, she kept Kieran protected. "And we're going to discuss why. But first—" He pulled back his aura, just enough to let the others breathe. "My son and mate are leaving with me, tonight. Anyone who objects can take it up with my teeth." "No." Isla's voice was barely a whisper. "No, you can't. We can't go with you." "Isla, I won't shame you." The words burst from her like a confession. "Don't you see? I'm broken, worthless, the lowest rank. If I stood beside you as queen, your enemies would mock you. Your pack would resent you. I'd destroy everything you've built. Do you think I care?" Theron moved toward her slowly, carefully, keeping his movements non-threatening. "Isla, I tore apart 3 territories looking for you. I became a monster because I couldn't find you. Nothing matters except having you home. But I'm an Omega. You're my Omega, my mate, the mother of my son." He dropped to his knees in front of her, ignoring the shocked gasps from the watching wolves. An Alpha King didn't kneel, ever, but Theron didn't care. "I don't care about your rank. I don't care what anyone thinks. I care that you're safe, that you're whole, that you're—" Kieran whimpered, and Theron's attention snapped to the boy. Their son was shaking. No, vibrating. His small body trembling with something that looked like a shift. "No." Isla's voice turned panicked. "No, baby, not yet, you're too young." "Mama, it hurts." Kieran's voice pitched higher. "Something's wrong, Mama. I'm scared." "Isla, what's happening?" Theron reached for them both. "He's shifting. He's too young. Wolves don't shift until they're at least 5. But he's only 3, and I don't know why." Light exploded around Kieran. The shift happened in a heartbeat. Faster than should be possible, smoother than a first shift had any right to be. Where a small boy had knelt, there was now a wolf pup. A pup with midnight black fur marked with silver patterns that every wolf in the room recognized. The nightshade, royal bloodline, markings. Absolute silence fell over the kitchen. Theron stared at his son, in wolf form, bearing the marks that hadn't been seen in a generation. The marks that proved beyond any doubt that Kieran was his heir. By the goddess, Marcus breathed, the boy is yours, truly yours. Delilah made a strangled sound. But that means, Theron said softly, dangerously, that every time you hurt Isla, every time you mocked her or degraded her or treated her like she was nothing, you were abusing the Alpha King's mate and heir. His smile was terrible. How does it feel, knowing you poisoned future royalty for entertainment? Delilah went white. Kieran whimpered in his pup form, confused and scared. Isla gathered him close, and the sight of his mate holding their wolf-shifted son broke something in Theron's chest. We're leaving. He stood pulling off his jacket and draping it around Isla's shoulders. Now. Anyone who tries to stop us will learn exactly why they call me the Reaper. Alpha King, please. Marcus scrambled to his feet. Let us make amends. We didn't know. You didn't care? Theron's voice cut like a blade. You had an Omega in your pack who served you faithfully, and you let her be tortured. The fact that she's my mate changes nothing about how wrong that was. He held out his hand to Isla. She stared at it like it might burn her. Theron, please listen. I'm not. You're enough. The words came from somewhere deep inside him. You've always been enough. More than enough. You're everything, Isla. And I'm not leaving without you. Tears streamed down her face. I was trying to protect you. From what? From me. From my pack. From the darkness I came from. Her voice broke. If they found out I mated an Alpha King, if they knew about Kieran, they'd come for us. They'd destroy everything. I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't let you get hurt because of me. Theron's blood went cold. Who would come? Isla. What pack did you flee from? She opened her mouth to answer, and Kieran, still in wolf form, let out a piercing howl that rattled the windows. Everyone froze. The pup's eyes had changed. Still gold, but now they glowed with an inner light that shouldn't be possible. Power rolled off him in waves, raw, untrained, dangerous. What's happening to him? Theron demanded. I don't know. Isla held Kieran tighter, but the pup was rigid in her arms, his small body arched. This isn't normal. None of this is normal. 3-year-olds don't shift, and they definitely don't. Kieran shifted back in another burst of light. The boy collapsed in Isla's arms, unconscious but breathing. The silver markings were still visible on his skin, glowing faintly before fading. We need to go. Now. Theron scooped Kieran from Isla's arms before she could protest. The boy was so light, so small. His son. My pack has healers who specialize in bloodline magic. They can help him. Bloodline magic? Isla's face went even paler. No, it means he's more than just a nightshade heir. Theron met her eyes. It means he's something special, something powerful, and whatever pack you're running from, they can't have him. They can't have either of you. He extended his hand again. This time, Isla took it. Her fingers were cold and trembling in his, but she held on. Let him pull her to her feet. Let him guide her toward the door, with their son cradled in one arm, and her hand clutched in the other. Alpha King, Marcus called after them. Please, can we at least discuss? Send a formal apology to my territory. Theron didn't look back. Include a detailed report of every injury, every insult, every moment of suffering my mate endured in your pack. Then start praying I don't come back to collect payment in blood. His elite guard waited in the corridor, all 40 of them bristling with barely contained violence. They'd felt his aura explosion. They knew something had gone catastrophically wrong. We're leaving, Theron announced. Guard formation around my mate and son. Anyone who tries to stop us dies. They moved as one, forming a protective barrier around Isla and Kieran. Through the pack house they went, past shocked faces and whispered speculation, past wolves who dropped to their knees as Theron passed, their Alpha King aura pressing down on them like a physical weight. Outside, the night air was cool and clean. Theron's wolf wanted to run, wanted to shift and carry his mate and son back to Nightshade territory on 4 legs. But Kieran needed care. And Isla. Isla hadn't said a word since they left the kitchen. She walked beside him like a ghost, her hand still in his, her eyes distant. "Put them in my vehicle," Theron told Marcus, his beta, not the Crescent Moon Alpha. "Have the healers on standby. I want Kieran examined the moment we arrive home." Home. The word felt strange after 3 years of emptiness. But as he settled Isla and Kieran into the SUV, as he climbed in beside them and gave the order to move, Theron finally let himself believe it. They were coming home. Chapter 4. The SUV sat running in the courtyard, its engine a low purr in the tense silence. Theron stood with Isla and Kieran behind him, his elite guard forming a semicircle of lethal protection. The entire Crescent Moon Pack had gathered, some curious, most terrified, all watching to see what the Alpha King would do next. Alpha Marcus stood on the pack house steps, his face ashen. Delilah clung to his arm, her throat still bruised from Theron's grip, her expression twisted with impotent rage. "Alpha King," Marcus began, his voice carefully measured. "Surely we can reach some understanding." "Understanding?" Theron's laugh was sharp enough to cut. "You want understanding? Here's what I understand. You harbored my mate for 3 years and treated her like garbage. You allowed her to be poisoned. You let your mate threaten my son." His eyes flashed gold. "What understanding would you like to reach about that?" It was a mistake, a grave mistake. Marcus spread his hands in supplication. "We didn't know who she was. If we had known..." "If you had known, you would have done the same thing." Theron's voice went cold. "Because you didn't see her as a person. You saw an Omega, someone beneath you, someone who didn't matter." Behind him, Igla made a small sound. Theron reached back without looking, finding her hand and squeezing gently. "Alpha King, please." Marcus descended the steps slowly. "Name your price. Reparations, tribute, territory, whatever you deem fair. But don't," he swallowed hard, "don't invoke the ancient rites." Theron's smile was terrible. "Ah, so you do know your history." A ripple of fear moved through the assembled wolves. Even Theron's own guards stiffened slightly. The ancient rites were old magic, old law, the kind that hadn't been invoked in generations because they were too brutal, too absolute. "The law is clear," Theron said, pitching his voice to carry across the courtyard. "Any pack that brings deliberate harm to an Alpha King's mate forfeits their territory and submits to the King's justice. Your pack poisoned my mate with Wolfsbane. Your mate threatened my son with silver chains. By ancient right, Crescent Moon Pack is mine." Gasps and cries erupted from the crowd. Wolves began backing away, some falling to their knees in submission, others looking ready to bolt. "No!" Delilah shrieked. "This is insane. She's just an Omega, just a worthless—" "Choose your next words very carefully," Theron warned, "because they might be your last." Marcus grabbed Delilah's arm, silencing her. The Alpha's mind was clearly racing, searching for any way out of the trap he'd walked into. His eyes darted over the assembled pack, over his territory, over everything he stood to lose. Then his gaze landed on Isla. Theron saw the calculation in his eyes and knew with sick certainty, what the Alpha was about to do. "Wait," Marcus raised his hands. "There's another way, an older tradition." He licked his lips. "The offending party can offer tribute to make amends." "Tribute?" Theron's voice was dangerously soft. "The Omega and her child." Marcus's words came faster now, desperate. We offer them to you freely. Full custody, no claims. They belong to you entirely. We acknowledge this. And in exchange, you show mercy to the pack who unknowingly sheltered your mate." The courtyard went silent. Theron felt Isla's hand trembling in his, felt her trying to pull away, to step forward, to somehow make this situation less catastrophic. "You're offering them as tribute." Theron repeated the words slowly, making sure he understood correctly, like property. "They're yours by right anyway," Marcus said quickly. "This just formalizes it, acknowledges your claim, and saves 200 innocent wolves who had no part in their mistreatment." "Papa Marcus, what are you doing?" someone called from the crowd, a young wolf, maybe 20, who looked horrified. "Silence," Marcus snapped. Then, more gently, "I'm saving us. The Alpha King wants them. Fine. They're his. And we survive." Theron looked at the man, this Alpha who would throw away his own pack members like garbage to save his own skin, and felt his wolf snarl with disgust. "So that's your offer?" Theron asked. "You throw my mate and child at my feet like scraps and expect mercy?" "It's practical. It's cowardice." The word cracked like a whip. "You're so desperate to save yourself that you'd trade away living, breathing wolves, that you'd reduce my mate, your pack member for 3 years, to a bargaining chip." Marcus flinched but held his ground. "Do you accept?" Before Theron could answer, Isla pulled free from his grip and stepped forward. "No." Her voice was stronger than Theron expected. "You don't get to do this, Marcus. You don't get to pretend you're some noble alpha making a hard choice. You're doing what you've always done, protecting yourself and throwing the weak to the wolves." "Isla, I'm not finished." She stood straighter, and Theron saw glimpses of the woman he'd fallen for 3 years ago. The one who'd been scared but brave, broken but fighting. "For 3 years I served this pack. I cleaned your floors, I cooked your food, I endured your insults and your cruelty. And not once did you see me as anything more than a tool to be used. You were Omega. I was a person." The shout echoed across the courtyard. "A person who deserved basic dignity, basic safety, and you gave me neither." Her hands were shaking, but she kept going. "So don't stand there and pretend you're offering us up out of strategy or wisdom. You're doing it because you're terrified. And you should be." Pride swelled in Theron's chest. His mate, his fierce, damaged, beautiful mate who'd found her voice again. Delilah, who'd been seething silently beside Marcus, finally snapped. "You ungrateful bitch." She lunged down the steps, faster than anyone expected. "We gave you shelter, we gave you a purpose, and this is how you repay us, by bringing ruin on our pack?" She moved with supernatural speed, too fast for a normal she-wolf. Her hand flashed silver, and Theron's heart stopped as he realized she'd drawn a blade. A silver blade aimed straight at Isla's heart. Theron moved, but he was too far away. The angle was wrong. He wasn't going to make it. Kieran was faster. The boy shifted in a burst of light, that same impossible too-fast shift, and launched himself from Theron's arms. The wolf pup, tiny but fearless, latched onto Delilah's arm with needle-sharp teeth. Delilah screamed. The silver blade clattered to the ground as she tried to shake off the attacking pup. But Kieran held on with grim determination, his growls high-pitched but vicious. "Get it off. Get this thing off me." Theron reached them in 3 strides. He plucked Kieran away with one hand. The pup released reluctantly, still snarling, and caught Delilah's wrist with the other as she raised her uninjured arm to strike his son. The courtyard held its collective breath. Delilah froze, her eyes going wide as she realized what she'd almost done. She'd almost struck the Alpha King's heir, in front of witnesses, with malicious intent. "Please," she whispered. "I didn't mean—" "It was instinct." "Instinct," Theron repeated flatly. He held her wrist in an iron grip, feeling her pulse hammering beneath his fingers. His wolf wanted blood. wanted her throat between his teeth, wanted justice for every time she'd hurt Isla, every moment of cruelty, every laugh while his mate had suffered. It would be so easy to kill her. Expected, even. She'd attacked his heir with silver, but as Theron looked at this woman, this spoiled, cruel creature who'd never known hardship or consequence, an idea formed. "No," he said softly, "I'm not going to kill you." Relief flooded Delilah's face. "Thank you, Alpha King, thank you. I'm going to do something worse." He released her wrist and placed his hand over her heart. Power, ancient, absolute, terrible, flooded from him into her. The kind of power that only an Alpha King possessed, the kind that could reshape reality itself. Delilah's eyes went wide. "What are you—" "No, wait. What are you doing?" The change was visible. Her aura, the shimmering gold that marked her as a high-ranking she-wolf, began to dim, to fade, to collapse inward until it was barely a flicker. "No!" She tried to pull away, but Theron's power held her frozen. "You can't. This isn't possible. I'm stripping your rank," Theron said calmly, permanently. "When I'm done, you'll be Omega, the lowest of the low, and you'll spend the rest of your life understanding exactly what you put my mate through." "Please," Delilah was sobbing now. "Please don't. I'll do anything." "Now you'll know her suffering." Theron's eyes blazed gold. "Now you'll understand what it means to be powerless, to be dismissed, to be treated like you're worthless." He leaned closer. "And every time someone hurts you, every time they laugh at your pain, I want you to remember this moment. Remember that you brought this on yourself." The final surge of power left him, and Delilah collapsed to the ground. She looked the same physically, same beautiful face, same perfect hair. But her aura was gone. Completely. She was Omega now. Truly and permanently. No amount of time or healing could change it. The watching wolves recoiled in horror. This was worse than death. This was a complete destruction of identity, of status, of everything that defined a wolf's place in pack hierarchy. Marcus stared at his mate with something like disgust. Already, Theron could see him calculating, wondering if he should reject her, cast her out, distance himself from this ruined woman who would only drag him down. "As for you," Theron turned to Marcus, "your tribute is accepted, not because you offered it, but because I'm taking it anyway. Isla and Kieran are mine. They've always been mine. And I don't need your permission or your political games to claim what belongs to me." He moved back to Isla, who stood frozen, staring at the sobbing Delilah with an expression Theron couldn't read. "Isla," he said her name gently, "we're leaving." She looked up at him, and her eyes were full of tears. "You didn't kill her?" "No." "Why?" "Because you're not a murderer, and neither should your mate be. Not unless absolutely necessary." He touched her face carefully, wiping away a tear. "And because death would have been too easy for her, now she'll live with the consequences of her cruelty." "I don't—" Isla's voice cracked. "I don't understand why you're doing this, why you care. I'm broken, Theron. Damaged. Every terrible thing they said about me is true. I'm weak and worthless and—" "Stop." The command was gentle but firm. "Isla, look at me." She did reluctantly. "You are my mate," Theron said clearly, "my queen. And I have burned entire packs for lesser offences than what they did to you." He cupped her face in both hands. "You will never be beneath anyone again. Not in rank, not in worth, not in any way that matters. But the pack, your pack, they'll never accept an Omega Queen. Then they'll learn to." His smile was fierce. "I'm the Alpha King. My word is law. And I say you're my queen." "Theron." He kissed her, not carefully, not gently, but with 3 years of longing and desperation and furious love. His lips claimed hers like a vow, like a promise, like a declaration of war against anyone who dared stand between them. Isla made a small sound. Surprise or surrender, he couldn't tell. And then she was kissing him back, her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, and the mate bond sang between them. When they finally broke apart, Theron rested his forehead against hers. "I'm going to complete the bond now," he whispered. "Right here, right now, in front of everyone. So there's no doubt, no question. Are you ready?" "I don't know if I—" "Are you mine?" "Yes." The answer came without hesitation. Always. Even when I ran. Even when I tried to protect you from myself. I was always yours. Then trust me. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "Trust that I know exactly what I'm doing. Trust that I want this, want you, and more than anything." He pulled back enough to tilt his head, exposing his throat, the vulnerable place where her mark should have been 3 years ago. Isla stared at the spot, her breathing shallow. "If I do this, everything changes," Theron confirmed. "You become my queen, my equal, the second most powerful wolf in the kingdom." He smiled. "And anyone who tries to hurt you answers to me." She looked at Kieran, who'd shifted back to human form and was clinging to Theron's leg. Their son nodded encouragingly, too young to understand the politics, but old enough to know this was important. "Okay," Isla whispered, "okay." She rose on her toes, and Theron felt her breath against his throat, felt her hesitation, her fear. "I've got you," he murmured. "I've always got you." Her teeth sank into his flesh. The bond exploded. It was nothing like the incomplete mark she'd given him 3 years ago. This was total, absolute, their souls intertwining, their wolves recognizing each other, their futures braiding together into something unbreakable. Theron gasped, his knees nearly buckling from the intensity. Joy and love and fierce possessiveness roared through him, mixed with Isla's emotions, her fear, her hope, her desperate, fragile trust. When she released him, blood trickling from her lips, the mark on his throat blazed silver. The assembled wolves dropped to their knees. All of them. Even Alpha Marcus, even his beta, even the ones who'd laughed while Isla suffered. Because the mark proclaimed her Queen Luna. The Alpha King's true mate, second in power only to Theron himself. "Rise," Theron commanded, his voice carrying absolute authority. "Behold your queen." Isla looked terrified and powerful in equal measure, her aura, which had always been so dim, so suppressed, suddenly blazing with borrowed power from their completed bond. Theron turned to his beta. "We're leaving, now, and Marcus," he addressed the crescent moon Alpha without looking at him. "If I ever hear that you've mistreated another Omega, another wolf without power or voice, I'll come back, and I won't be so merciful." They moved as a unit toward the SUVs. Isla walked beside Theron now, not behind him. Kieran held both their hands, swinging between them like a normal child, like he wasn't a 3-year-old who could shift at will and bore royal bloodline markings. As they reached the vehicles, Theron's beta, Marcus, his Marcus, not the crescent moon Alpha, appeared at his side. "My king," he said quietly, "we need to talk about the council. Later." "No, now." His beta's expression was grim. "The council won't accept an Omega queen. It doesn't matter that she's your mate. Tradition, hierarchy, politics, they'll challenge this, loudly." "Let them try." Theron opened the SUV door, helping Isla inside with Kieran. "I'm serious, Theron. This could fracture the kingdom. Some packs might even rebel. Then we'll deal with it." Theron met his beta's eyes. "I'm not negotiating Isla's position. Not with the council, not with anyone." "I know. I'm just warning you. This is going to be a fight." From inside the SUV, Isla's voice rang out, stronger than before, clearer. "Let them come." Theron turned to look at her, surprised. Isla's eyes were blazing, not the storm grey he knew, but gold. Bright, burning, impossible gold. "What?" Theron started. "They threw Wolfsbane on the wrong Omega." Isla's smile was sharp, dangerous, and Theron saw a glimpse of something he'd never noticed before. Power, real power, buried deep beneath years of abuse and suppression. They have no idea what I really am. Her wolf spoke then, clear and strong for the first time in years, its voice echoing in Theron's mind through their new bond. And neither do you, mate. Not yet. The gold in her eyes flashed brighter, then faded back to storm grey. Theron stared at his mate, his queen, his mystery, his everything, and realised the truth. He'd been searching for 3 years, but he'd only just begun to find her. Chapter 5. The Queen's Truth. The journey back to Nightshade territory took 4 hours, but it felt like 4 lifetimes. Isla sat rigid in the back seat, Kieran asleep against her chest, while Theron drove with white-knuckled intensity. His beta Marcus rode in the passenger seat, occasionally glancing back at the new Queen Luna with poorly concealed concern. That flash of gold in her eyes haunted all of them. Isla. Theron's voice was careful. What happened back there? Your eyes? I don't know. She stared out the window at the darkness rushing past. That's never happened before. Your wolf spoke to me, through the bond. I know, I felt it. Her arms tightened around Kieran. She's been silent for so long. Years. Ever since She stopped. Ever since you what? Silence stretched between them, heavy, with unspoken truths. Finally, Isla's voice came soft and broken. Ever since I killed my first alpha. The SUV swerved slightly before Theron corrected. What? You wanted the truth? Here it is. Isla's laugh was hollow. I'm not from Crescent Moonpack originally. I'm from Blood Moonpack, far north. And I'm not. She swallowed hard. I wasn't always an Omega. Theron's hands tightened on the steering wheel. His beta turned fully in his seat, staring. I was born a beta, Isla continued, her voice distant, strong, ranked. My father was the pack's head warrior. My mother was a healer. We were respected, happy. Her voice cracked, until the old alpha died and his son took over. She paused, stroking Kieran's hair with trembling fingers. Alpha Dimitri was wrong, sick. He believed Omegas existed for his pleasure, that ranked females should be broken to remind them of their place. My mother spoke against him, so he killed her, made it look like a rogue attack. Isla, Theron started. I challenged him. I was 19 and stupid and so angry I couldn't see straight. I actually managed to wound him, got my claws across his throat. But he was an alpha, and I was just a beta, and he... She closed her eyes. He didn't kill me. That would have been too easy. Instead, he had his witch bind my wolf. Suppressed her until I could barely feel her, stripped my rank through dark magic and made me Omega. Understanding crashed over Theron like ice water. That's why your aura was so dim. The binding, Isla confirmed. It crippled my wolf, made her silent, made me weak. And then Dimitri decided I'd serve as his personal entertainment. For 2 years Her voice broke. I endured things I won't speak of, things that left scars on my soul deeper than any on my skin. Kieran stirred in her arms, and she rocked him gently until he settled. But the binding wasn't perfect, she continued. My wolf was still there, buried deep, waiting. And one night when Dimitri came for me again, when he was distracted and cruel and thought I was completely broken, my wolf surged, just for a moment. Just long enough. You killed him, Theron said quietly. I tore his throat out with my bare hands. There was no satisfaction in her voice, only exhaustion. And then I ran. Because killing an alpha, even in self-defense, is a death sentence. The pack would have executed me. So I ran and I kept running, pack to pack, never staying long enough for anyone to ask questions, never letting anyone see the real scars. Until you met me. Until I met you. Isla's smile was sad. And you were kind. So impossibly kind. You made me feel human again. made me remember what it was like to be wanted instead of used. And when the bond snapped between us, I thought—" She laughed bitterly. "I thought maybe the goddess was giving me a second chance. So why did you leave? Because I was pregnant." The words fell like stones. I woke up that morning and I knew, my wolf knew, and I panicked because— Tears streamed down her face now. "Because you were the Alpha King. The Alpha King. And I was a broken, bound, wanted murderer carrying your child. What kind of future was that? What kind of queen would I be?" She turned to look at him, her eyes pleading for understanding. "I thought if Blood Moon Pack found out I'd mated you, they'd come for you, would use you to get to me. You're powerful, Theron, but Dimitri's brother is now Alpha, and he has connections. Dark connections. Witches and rogues and wolves who deal in blood magic." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I couldn't let you become a target because of me. Couldn't let our son grow up in that shadow. So I ran. I hid. And I told myself you'd be better off." Theron pulled the SUV to the side of the road so abruptly that Marcus braced himself against the dashboard. "Better off?" Theron's voice was raw. "Isla, I spent 3 years becoming a monster. I killed hundreds searching for you. I stopped sleeping, stopped feeling anything except rage and grief. You think that's better off? I thought you'd forget me eventually." "Forget you?" He turned in his seat to face her fully. "You're my mate, my soul. You don't forget that. You don't recover from that. I was dying slowly every day you were gone. I'm sorry." The words were a sob. "I'm so sorry. I thought I was protecting you, but I—" "Come here." Theron unbuckled and moved to the back seat, careful not to wake Kieran. He pulled Isla into his arms, letting her cry into his chest while he held her and their son together. "No more running," he murmured into her hair. "No more hiding. Blood Moon Pack wants to come for us? Let them. They'll learn what happens when they threaten my family. But the binding. My wolf is still broken. We'll fix it. I have the best healers in the kingdom, witches who owe me favours. We'll break the binding and restore your wolf fully. And the council?" Marcus spoke up quietly. "They'll still challenge her rank. Then they'll lose." Theron's voice hardened. "Because what none of them know, what even Isla doesn't know, is that I've been planning to reform the council for years. They've grown corrupt, complacent. They need to remember who rules this kingdom." He tilted Isla's chin up, forcing her to meet his eyes. "You want to know why your eyes flashed gold? Why your wolf suddenly spoke after years of silence?" He smiled. "Because the mate bond is breaking the binding. My power flowing into you is cracking the spell piece by piece. Give it time, and you'll be stronger than you ever were." Hope flickered across Isla's face. "Really? Really?" He kissed her forehead. "You're not broken, Isla. You're healing, and I'm going to be right here while you do." She sagged against him, exhausted. "I don't deserve you. You deserve everything." He held her tighter. "And I'm going to spend the rest of our lives proving it." They arrived at Nightshade Castle just after midnight. The fortress rose against the starlit sky like something from a fairy tale. All towers and battlements and ancient stone that had stood for 1,000 years. Isla stared up at it with wide eyes. "This is your home?" "Our home," Theron corrected. "Yours, mine, and Kieran's." The castle staff assembled in the great hall to meet their new queen. Dozens of wolves, all dropping to their knees, as Isla entered with Kieran in her arms. "Rise," she said softly, uncomfortable with the display. "Please." A woman stepped forward, older, with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair. "My queen, I'm Elena, head of household staff. We've prepared the royal suite for you and the young prince. If there's anything you need—" "A healer," Theron interrupted, "for my son. He shifted too early, and it's taking a toll." "Of course, Alpha King. I'll send for Healer Meredith immediately." Within minutes they were in the royal suite, a sprawling space with windows overlooking the territory, furniture that probably cost more than entire houses, and a bed large enough for a family. Healer Meredith arrived shortly after, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and gentle hands. She examined Kieran thoroughly while he slept, her expression growing more concerned. "The young prince carries immense power," she said finally. "His bloodline is pure nightshade, but there's something else, something I've never seen before. It's like he has two wolves instead of one." Isla and Theron exchanged glances. "Is that possible?" Isla asked. "It shouldn't be, but—" Meredith gestured to the silver markings still faintly visible on Kieran's skin. "These marks indicate royal blood, strong royal blood, and the early shift suggests power that his young body is struggling to contain." "Will he be all right?" Isla's voice shook. "Yes, but he'll need training, guidance, someone who understands bloodline magic." Meredith looked at Theron. "You'll need to contact the Ancient Order. They specialize in royal bloodlines and unusual manifestations." "Consider it done," Theron said. "What can we do for him now?" "Let him rest. His body is adapting. In a few days he'll stabilize." She smiled gently at Isla. "You've done well protecting him, my queen. Many children with this much power don't survive infancy without proper care." After Meredith left, Isla curled up next to Kieran on the massive bed, watching him sleep. Theron sat beside her, his hand finding hers. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Everything's happening so fast. Yesterday I was a servant. Today I'm a queen. Tomorrow I have to face a council that wants me gone. And Kieran." She touched their son's face gently. "He's so powerful, so special. What if I can't protect him?" "You're not alone anymore." Theron squeezed her hand. "We protect him together. We face the council together. We heal together." "Together," she repeated softly. "I'm not used to together." "Get used to it." He pulled her close, careful not to disturb Kieran. "Because I'm not letting you go again. Ever." She tilted her head up, and he kissed her, slow and sweet and full of promises. When they finally broke apart, Isla whispered, "I love you. I should have said it 3 years ago. Should have trusted you with the truth. But I'm saying it now. I love you, Theron Nightshade." "I love you too," he murmured against her lips. "My queen, my mate, my everything." They stayed like that, the three of them together on the massive bed, until exhaustion finally claimed them. But even in sleep, Theron kept one arm around his family. He'd spent 3 years searching. He'd spent 3 years becoming a monster. But now, finally, he was home. And so was she. The next morning, Theron called an emergency council meeting. 12 ranking alphas assembled in the council chamber. Powerful wolves who'd advised the Nightshade Kings for generations. They took their seats with varying degrees of curiosity and suspicion. Theron stood at the head of the table, Isla beside him. She wore a dress Elena had found. Simple but elegant, in deep blue that matched her newly confident bearing. The mate mark on her neck was visible, proclaiming her status to all. "Gentlemen," Theron began, "I've called you here to introduce Queen Luna Isla Nightshade, my mate and the mother of my heir." Silence, then chaos. "An Omega?" one alpha sputtered. "You mated an Omega? This is unprecedented. The bloodline will be tainted. Enough." Theron's command silenced them all. "I didn't ask for your approval. I called you here as a courtesy. Isla is my queen. This is not negotiable." "But tradition," another alpha began. "Tradition is why we have packs that abuse Omegas for entertainment." Theron cut him off. "Tradition is why my mate spent 3 years being treated like garbage. Maybe it's time we examined which traditions are worth keeping." "You can't just change centuries of hierarchy. I'm the Alpha King. I can do whatever I want." His eyes flashed gold. "But I'm not changing hierarchy. I'm expanding it. Omega is a rank, yes, but it doesn't mean worthless. It doesn't mean disposable. And any pack in my kingdom that treats their Omegas the way Crescent Moon treated mine will answer to me personally." The alphas exchanged nervous glances. Furthermore, Theron continued, I'm dissolving this council, effective immediately. That got their attention. You can't. I just did. You've grown corrupt, complacent, more concerned with maintaining power than actually leading. So here's what's going to happen. You'll all return to your territories. In 6 months, I'll hold trials for a new council. Alphas who've proven themselves worthy, who treat all their pack members with dignity, who lead with strength and compassion, will be invited to apply. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to something dangerous. And if any of you have a problem with my mate, with her rank, with her position as queen, you're welcome to challenge me. Right here, right now. No one moved. That's what I thought. Theron straightened. Now get out. They fled like frightened rabbits. When the chamber was empty, Isla turned to him with wide eyes. You just dissolved the council. For me? No, I dissolved the council because it needed to be done. I've been planning it for months. He smiled. You just gave me the perfect excuse. She laughed, actually laughed, and threw her arms around his neck. You're insane. Probably, he kissed her. But you're stuck with me now. Good, she whispered, because I'm not running anymore. Over the following weeks, life settled into a new rhythm. Healer Meredith worked with members of the Ancient Order to help stabilize Kieran's power. The boy thrived under their guidance, learning to control his shifts and understand his unusual gifts. Isla underwent treatments to break the binding on her wolf. It was painful. Dark magic always was. But with each session, she grew stronger. Her aura brightened. Her wolf's voice grew clearer, and her eyes, those storm-grey eyes, began showing flashes of gold more frequently. You were beta-born, Meredith explained during one treatment. But the trauma, the binding, the years of suppression, they changed you. You're not beta anymore. You're not omega either. You're something new, something powerful. What am I? Isla asked. Meredith smiled. You're the Queen Luna, the Alpha King's mate. Your rank is whatever you make it. The bond between Isla and Theron deepened daily. Through it she felt his unwavering support, his fierce love, his absolute conviction that she belonged at his side. And slowly, so slowly, she began to believe it too. News of the Omega Queen spread across the territories. Some packs were scandalized, others were curious, a few were quietly hopeful, especially the Omegas who'd suffered in silence for so long. Isla received letters, hundreds of them, from Omegas thanking her, from mothers asking for help, from wolves who'd been abused and needed someone to believe them. She read every single one, and she answered them. I want to do something, she told Theron one night as they lay tangled together, for the Omegas, the ones still suffering. What did you have in mind? A sanctuary, a place where Omegas can come if they're being abused, where they're safe, protected, where they can heal and learn they're worth more than they've been told. Theron kissed her temple. Consider it done. I'll have Marcus start the paperwork tomorrow. Just like that? Just like that. He pulled her closer. You're the queen, Isla. You want to change the world? I'll help you do it. She kissed him then, deep and grateful and full of love. 3 months after arriving at Nightshade Castle, Isla stood before a mirror in the royal suite and barely recognized herself. The scars remained, both physical and emotional, but she stood straighter now, stronger. Her eyes held confidence instead of fear. The final binding broke that morning, and her wolf had surged forward with a roar that shook the castle walls. She was magnificent, silver-grey with streaks of gold, powerful and fierce, and finally free. Elena knocked on the door. My queen? It's time. Today was the official coronation. The ceremony where Isla would be crowned Queen Luna before all the territories. She was terrified. But as she descended the grand staircase and saw Theron waiting at the bottom, saw the absolute love and pride in his eyes, Her fear melted away. He held out his hand. She took it. Together they walked into the throne room where hundreds of wolves waited, some friendly, some hostile, all watching to see if the Omega Queen would falter. She didn't. When the crown was placed on her head, a delicate thing of silver and moonstone, Isla felt her wolf howl with triumph. And when she turned to face the assembled wolves, when her eyes flashed that impossible gold, when her voice rang out clear and strong, I stand before you not as the Omega you expected, but as the queen you need. I've known suffering. I've known abuse. I've known what it means to be powerless, and I swear to you, on my life, on my crown, on everything I hold sacred, that no wolf in this kingdom will suffer that way again, not while I draw breath. The throne room erupted in howls, some of approval, some of challenge, but all acknowledging one truth: the Omega Queen had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. Epilogue. 5 years later, the autumn sun painted Nightshade territory in shades of gold and amber as Isla watched from the tower window. Below, in the courtyard, Kieran played with a group of children, some alpha-born, some beta, some omega. Rank didn't matter in the play of children, not anymore. Her son was 8 now, tall for his age and already showing signs of the powerful alpha he'd become. His silver-streaked dark hair caught the light as he laughed, chasing a girl with bright red braids. "He's getting faster." Theron's voice came from behind her, warm and familiar. Strong arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. "Soon, he'll be outrunning the guards." "He already is." Isla smiled, leaning into her mate's embrace. Elena caught him sneaking extra desserts from the kitchen last week. When she tried to stop him, he shifted and ran circles around her. Theron's laugh rumbled through his chest. "That's my boy." They stood in comfortable silence, watching their son play. 5 years had brought so many changes. The sanctuary for Omegas was thriving. 3 locations now, with more planned. Hundreds of wolves had found safety there, had healed, had learned to stand tall again. The new council was seated, 12 alphas who'd proven themselves worthy through deed rather than birthright. They advised rather than ruled, supported rather than controlled. Omega rights had been codified into law. Abuse was met with swift justice. The hierarchy still existed, but it was tempered now with compassion and accountability. And Blood Moon Pack. "Any word from the northern border?" Isla asked quietly. "Marcus sent a report this morning. Dimitri's brother tried to cross into our territory again. The guards turned him back." Theron's arms tightened around her. "He's testing us, seeing if we'll retaliate." "And will we?" "Not unless he forces our hand. The wards are holding. The ancient order strengthened them last month." He pressed a kiss to her neck, right over his mark. "He can't touch you, love." "I won't allow it." Isla turned in his arms, looking up at her mate. 5 years, and he still took her breath away. The hardness had softened somewhat. Not disappeared, but tempered with the peace of having his family whole. "I'm not afraid of him anymore," she said. "I used to wake up every night terrified he'd find us. But now," she touched Theron's face, "now I know we're stronger than whatever darkness comes." "We are," he kissed her softly. "You are." Footsteps thundered up the stairs and Kieran burst onto the landing, his face flushed with excitement. "Mama, Papa, come quick." The new pups arrived at the sanctuary and one of them can already shift and she's only 2, and Healer Meredith says it's like what happened to me and... He paused for breath. "Can we keep her?" Isla and Theron exchanged amused glances. "Sweetheart," Isla said gently, "the sanctuary isn't for keeping children. It's for helping them heal so they can find their forever homes." "But what if we're her forever home?" Kieran's golden eyes, so like his father's, were pleading. "What if she needs a family like I needed you guys?" Theron knelt down to his son's level. "Is that what you want? A sister?" "Maybe." Kieran's excitement dimmed slightly. I just She looked scared, Papa. Really scared. Like how Mama looks sometimes when she has bad dreams. And I thought if someone had helped her sooner, maybe she wouldn't be so scared. Isla's heart clenched. Her son had such a good heart. Such a fierce, protective spirit tempered with genuine compassion. We'll go meet her, she decided, and we'll see what she needs. Okay? Kieran's face lit up. Really? Really? But no promises about keeping her. She ruffled his hair. Now go wash up. You've got dirt all over you. He raced off, his energy boundless. Theron stood, pulling Isla close again. You know we're going to end up adopting her, right? Probably, Isla smiled. But can you imagine? A daughter, a little girl who needs us as much as we needed each other. A princess to go with our prince. Theron's eyes softened. I like it. Our family keeps growing. It does? Isla looked out the window again over the territory they'd built together, a kingdom where strength and compassion weren't opposites, where rank didn't determine worth, where broken things could heal. Who would have thought? The Omega and the Alpha King. The Queen and her King, Theron corrected, because that's what you are, Isla, not Omega, not Beta. Just... He kissed her forehead. Mine, and perfect, exactly as you are. She turned to kiss him properly, pouring 5 years of love and gratitude into the gesture. When they finally broke apart, Kieran's voice echoed up the stairs. Are you guys kissing again? That's gross. Come on. They laughed, the sound echoing through the tower. Hand in hand, they descended to meet the little girl who might become their daughter. Descended to continue building their family, their kingdom, their future. The scars remained. Isla's, Theron's, all the wolves they'd helped along the way. But scars were proof of survival, of battles fought and won, of pain that couldn't break what it couldn't kill. And as they walked through the castle that had become home, past wolves who smiled and bowed not from fear but from respect, Isla felt her wolf purr with contentment. She'd been running for so long, but now, finally, beautifully, permanently, she was home. They both were, and they were never letting go again. The end. Thank you for listening this story. Like, share and subscribe for more.